Good morning, Yugi boys and girls. Happy Saturday, and I hope you guys are ready for the first ever episode of Going Second Saturdays. And I felt like bringing in the new series with arguably the deck that wants to go second the most, Crusadias. This deck is known as probably the greatest glass cannon that exists in Yu-Gi-Oh! In fact, if you were to look up what a glass cannon is inside of an encyclopedia, you'll probably see this deck. Now, what this deck aims to do is literally kill with one attack. The way that it accomplishes this is through one very simple line of play. Just climb into Equimax and attack one time per game. All of the Crusadia monsters can special summon themselves to a zone a link monster points to, and then have additional effects which come up throughout your combo. Crusadia Maximus is your last piece that you want to use. He gives double damage when attacking against an opponent's monster. We have Crusadia Draco. He is your recursion engine. He allows you to add back one Crusadia card from your graveyard back to your hand. Crusadia Leon is a little bit useless, but he does come up every once in a while, and best of all, he is a Crusadia name. He allows you to inflict piercing damage. Arborea, very niche, but still usable. If a Crusadia card or cards would be destroyed by a battle or card effect, you can banish it from your field or graveyard instead. Reclusia allows us to clear the board a little bit by popping one Crusadia card and one card our opponent controls to destroy both. And then as another extender, we have World Legacy World Crown, which is searchable off of our Crusadia Crawler and is also just a decent extender. It also represents an extra monster negate, or an extra deck monster negate, sorry. When a monster that was special summoned from the extra deck activates its effect, you contribute it and negate its activation and destroy it. So it is an excellent extra piece of negation if you're going up against decks that use the extra deck. Now, since we are strictly going second, we do not want to face a bunch of negates, so we need powerful cards to help us get through those. The first being Nibiru, clearing a board, or at least baiting out a negate. Next we have our Kaijus. Godarla is arguably the best card Kaiju right now because of Tri-Brigade, as well as our Fluanderees. Some Crusadia lists aim to main deck more Kaijus, as well as Kaiju Slumber. However, in this current meta, I believe that 3 is correct. Then we also do not like back row, and we need versatile cards that also help us clear the board. Lightning Storm is that perfect card. If our opponent has a bunch of back row, we are going to destroy it with this card. We also are playing one Harpy's Feather Duster as well as one Red Reboot, just in case. Now we definitely need our cards, and you'll notice that virtually every card in this deck is a 3-of, so Pot of Desires fits perfectly in this deck. We definitely want to dig for those board clearing cards as well as additional summons. One World Legacy Secession, which is searchable off of our Crawler, and is also another nice extender. One Called by the Grave, just a little insulation against hand traps. Forbidden Chalice to protect us against any floodgate monsters like Winda. Crusadia Power, a searchable card that allows us to make a Crusadia monster unaffected by card effects. Triple Imperm, again for those floodgate monsters, as well as things like Verte Anaconda. And then one Crawler and one Red Reboot, as stated before. So for our extra deck, we have the Super Poly package, Drago Necro for our Eldritch matchups, our Eldritch Zombie matchups, Starving Venom for anything that has multiple darks, and Mud Dragon of the Swamp for anything that has two same attribute but different types. One Mech Knight Crusadia Astra. Yes, this is a Crusadia card. There are some decks that just cannot out this card. One Access Code Talker. We do link climb very easily, so this is a fantastic card for us to have. One Nightmare Unicorn to help us spin back. One Nightmare Phoenix to clear that back row. And then on to our Crusadians. This is the linear line. This is our linear line of play. We have two Crusadia Equimax, the One Punch Man himself. So it requires 2 effect monsters, including a link monster, to be summoned. Gains attack equal to the combined original attack of all monsters it points to. And once per turn, as a quick effect, it contributes a Crusadia or World Legacy monster to target a face-up card on your opponent controls and negate its effects until the end of the turn. So it is also a Hot Red Dragon Abyss. Crusadia Regulex is our spell trap searcher. Anytime a monster is summoned to a anytime an effect monster is special summoned to a zone it points to, It can add a Crusadia spell or trap, so it searches out our Crawler or our Crusadia power, depending on where we're at. Crusadia Spatha very rarely comes up these days. This card used to facilitate Guard Dragon combos, but it is now regulated just to very niche scenarios in which we need to move a monster to where our Equimax points to. And then finally, our Crusadia Magus, the card that gets everything started. When an effect monster is special summoned to the zone that it points to, it searches out a Crusadia monster. Most of the time you are either searching out your Maximus or your Draco for additional summons. And then for the side deck, we need very powerful cards in order to stop our opponent and clear their board, so we have Droll and Lockbird, as well as Cosmic Cyclone for those back row heavy decks, Super Poly, which helps clear some strong negates or things like DPE. We also have D-Barrier if we are forced to go first, and one fantastic thing that Crusadia has is that all of these monsters are all different types. So Tsubu fits perfectly in this deck for going first, which our opponents will inevitably make us do because they have no idea what this deck does. Alright, our first matchup is against Dinos, and we are in fact going second. Our opponent does make a slight misplay. He ends up searching Golem off of his Scrap Raptor when he should have just ignored the effect. However, this will give us a chance to show just how easy it is for this deck to OTK. So our opponent's going to go through the normal Dino plays up until the point of Scrap Raptor activation. He's going to do Oviraptor, add Misk, Pitch, make monsters unaffected, summon out Amadorn. Amadorn's going to pop that Petite, and then summon out Scrap Raptor. Now this is where our opponent makes his mistake. He activates the Raptor, getting the additional normal summon. However, he searches out the Golem, effectively ending his combo. However, he's still able to go through and make some plays, which in turn allows him to make Appaloosa plus UTC, which is still a formidable board in most cases. However, Pot of Desires draws us into, oh look, a Kaiju. Now, we Kaiju away the Appaloosa, and then we go through our plays. Now, our opponent obviously has no idea what's going on and should have attempted to use the UTC, but as you can see, it really wouldn't have mattered because we have both Crusadia power as well as Forbidden Chalice to negate. Now we go through our line, we search out our Crusadia cards, go into Equimax, make double damage, and attack for 9600. Alright, and now in game 2 we will be going first. Now this is not an overly impressive hand. We have one Imperium, one Nibiru, and one Forbidden Chalice. But as you notice, we only have one Crusadia monster. This means that we only have the one summon, so we cannot get our engine going. But this was not a this does not necessarily mean that all is lost, so we're going to try and play it out. Our opponent's going to search the Ovi, and then activate Ovi, try to search out that Misk, but we will chain the Chalice, hoping that he doesn't have Misk in hand, which he does not, so he's going to go for the UTC off of the pill, and get in for plenty of damage. And then off the top we draw a second Crusadia monster, which basically means that we are going to win the duel. So we're going to normal summon, he's going to attempt UTC, but we have the Imperium. So then we're going to go into Magus, search out our Maximus, summon our Regulex, and this is the lovely thing, is that right here, we don't have to go into our Equimax because we are pointed straight to that UTC. Regulex is going to gain his attack, which gives Regulex 6100 attack, and Maximus will give him double damage, meaning that we can get over that Oviraptor for lethal with one attack without having to go to our Link 3. Now in our next matchup we are going up against Skystrikers, and this often happens where you open with too many board breakers and not enough starter cards. One big problem with Crusadia is that it requires 2 monsters to summon, and when you only have one, you cannot get your engine going. So although we have ways to break a striker board, we simply do not have enough to go in for the game. And this is unfortunate because Striker is usually a very easy matchup for us. One Kaiju and their deck is basically turned off. So he's going to start off with a Pot of Prosperity, banishing 3, searching out that Raid, which is a nice pickup, going for the Shizuku, searching out the Engage, and passing turn. And we do not draw a second monster, which basically means that we have nothing we can do. We're just going to give him a Kaiju and hope he can't clear it. And our opponent draws off the top a Widow Anchor. He has a second Prosperity though, and with that second Prosperity he's going to go ahead and add that Ash. And then he's going to pass back the turn because he has nothing better to do. Off the top, we draw a World Legacy Succession, which does get us there. This is an extender. However, it's not going to get us lethal, so it is effectively dead in hand, but we're going to try it anyway. So we're going to normal summon our Draco, go for the Succession, add back, attempt to add off of Magius, but he is going to throw the Ash Blossom at us. And we're going to sit on Regulex, hoping that he does not realize that his monster can attack. Now, however, he does have the Droplet to clear his board, and then he's going to be able to get his engine going. He's going to go for the Hornet Drones, make his Hayate go for Engage. We're going to go ahead and banish that Engage, hoping that we can somehow grind this out. But after he searches out the Rose and draws an additional card, it's really not likely that we need to have 2 monsters in order to go for the OTK, and we have 0. He's going to go for Zeke. We're just going to go ahead and negate, again, hoping to clog up that monster zone. A Cosmic on the last card, which is Widowmaker, but with a World Crown, there's really nothing that we can do. He's going to go ahead and use that Area 0, clearing off that Rose by adding another Rose, surprisingly, and then he's able to use Widowmaker, grab our monster, and kill us with it. Alright, so now we've seen 2 ends of the spectrum. We've seen how powerful Crusadia can be going second, being able to OTK almost out of nowhere, and we've also seen the downsides to it where it can get a little cloggy and you just don't have enough resources to go for game. But what happens when you end up in a very grindy match against a very good deck? This is where our power card that can be only 1 comes in handy. If you notice, PKs have a very hard time playing around this card, especially if you're able to negate most of their outs. So we are going to go first. We're going to go off for that Pot of Desires, which is quickly met by an Ash, which is fine. We're going to go ahead and set 3 and pass. Now our opponent does not realize what is about to happen, so he's going to play into it. Now, discarding the Jackalope right off of the Torn Scales is pretty nice. He's going to go for the Cherubini, send his Extenders, go into Rusty, and then make send Shade Brigandine, do the normal PK combos. And at this point is when we flip our TCU, and that I thought would be the best point because this doesn't allow him to go into a Break Sword, which will destroy our spell and traps anyway, and this will keep him off of extending further. Now we have to hope that he does not have any further extenders, and we also have to hope that we draw into something playable. Pot of Desires might just get us there. It draws us 2 cards, and of course we draw another Nibiru, so we are going to have to pass turn. Our opponent keeps gaining advantage right off of that Rusty, hitting in with 21 because there's no way he can clear that Warrior. We do draw into a Maximus, which does allow us to go into our plays now. We're going to go ahead and search off of Magius, which is met by a Fogblade, but he does allow the search off of Crawler. Interesting. So we're going to add that World Crown, go into our Regulex, summon the World Crown, which he does not realize. Now, funny thing about the Phantom Knight's Fogblade. Yes, it does make it so that your monster cannot be targeted for an attack, but there is the key word. You cannot target the monster for attack. We had already targeted Rusty for an attack, and when he flipped up Fogblade, making it untargetable, it was too late. Now he's going to go into Shade Brigandine, Wing Spider, and bring back his Phantom Knights. Going to attempt a Verite Anaconda and make Dragoon. Now the unfortunate thing here is that EDO Pro decided not to give me the opportunity to use the Super Poly, but no matter what, we're going to bait out a card from his hand, and then we are going to go ahead, allow him to pop our Regulex, no big deal. And we're just going to go ahead and scoop up his last 2 monsters. We didn't need that Nibiru anyway because we weren't even using the first one. And now we've entered into a grind. Here it is a very simplified game state where neither of us have ways to out our opponent. Here we've entered into a very grindy state where neither of us can really get things going. He's unable to summon more than 1 monster because most of his monsters have the same type. And I'm unable to summon more than 1 monster because I do not have more than 1 monster. So we're going to grind it out and hope that we can drop into something here. Chalice to negate the recursion. We're not going to allow him to get his monsters back. Now drawing a second Arborea is interesting. It'll likely bait out on the gate if we try for it, but I decide to go for another turn to see what will happen. He does end up setting and passing. And a Pot of Desires is completely useless, but we might be able to pitch it off of Nightmare Phoenix. So we're going to go ahead and add ourselves a Dinos, which was a mistake on my part, but that is okay, you live and you learn. We're going to go for that Phoenix to bait out the negate, and then we're going to give ourselves an Equimax, which again gives us a negate. Now, I tried going into Mech Knight Avermax, but I did not realize that Avermax was also a Cyberse. So that was a misplay on my part, but we still have our negate. So he is unsurprisingly able to extend out the ass because Phantom Knights are able to do that. He's going to once again try for Leviair, but it's going to be met by our Equimax negate. Fogblade's going to bring back, and then he's going to sit on that. Now he did have one big mistake, and that is he left Tour Guide in attack position, and we are the greatest duelist ever and drew Maximus. So this allows us to do double damage in a simplified game state, which gives us the win. So, all in all, thoughts about the deck. Crusadia is a very simple deck to play. Its lines are very easy and always the same. You are always going to normal summon a Crusadia, summon Magius, special summon another monster, search out either your Maximus or your Draco, go into Regulex, go into Equimax, and attack for game. That is always going to be the play, no matter what. It's a very linear deck, but it is a very powerful deck. It can steal games out of nowhere. It can play one of the strongest cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! Being there can be only one. Now this deck focuses mainly on the OTK aspect of going second. It does not set up its plays. It does not need your opponent to set up its plays. It simply wants to kill you. It just wants to punch you in the face. Although it is powerful, it is not going to be anything special in today's meta. The deck is not able to play through multiple negations or interruptions, and in a simplified game state, it simply cannot take the game away from your opponent. It is a fun deck to learn to play. It is also a great way to get into Yu-Gi-Oh!, especially in the modern era. Teaches you how to link summon and can also steal wins to give you that boost of confidence and earn you some packs at locals. But aside from that, it is nothing competitive, especially since the Guard Dragon engine is effectively destroyed because of the ban list. I hope you have enjoyed today's Go Second Saturday, and I'll catch you guys next week for our next installment of the series. May the cards be with you. Peace out.